Awesome. Awesome. So, first of all, thank you so much for tuning in to the Queen's Lounge podcast. Welcome to the lounge. I am your homegirl, Shay. I am so excited today to have the phenomenal and awesome Miss Jill Dorch with me here today, who is going to be talking about life insurance. And I don't know about you, but for me, life insurance is something that is essential to my life because I don't know when I'm going to be called home. And I want to make sure that everything is in order before my time is called or before it's time for me to extend into a new place. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with Miss Jill Dorch. If you can introduce yourself and let the people know who you are.
Hi. So again, my name is Jill, and I have been an insurance producer for 5 years. I produce in Kansas and Missouri. And just a little backstory on myself. I am a native of Kansas City, Missouri. And one of the biggest things that got me into insurance is I experienced a death, and it was my father.
Oh, wow.
And it was an unexpected death. And he didn't have insurance. So, and I was considered his next of kin.
Oh,
So in that, I received a call that my dad passed, and everybody's looking at me like, what are you going to do?
Yes.
And so that was, although I was a grown woman, that was a situation where I don't think anybody, I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't properly grieve my dad. I couldn't, I experienced so many emotions from being upset, angry, because I had to figure out how to come up with close to $10,000 to bury my dad, who I didn't expect to pass.
Yes, ma'am.
And so it was after that, I was like, okay, I got to do something. People need to know that you can have insurance and it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg.
Mm-hmm.
It's fairly easy to get, and you won't have to have this burden of trying to bury somebody and like I said, coming up with thousands of dollars out of nowhere.
Yes.
So
that's very informative. And not only that, but I find a lot of people trying to scrape around for the resources and for the finances. And it's always too late when they're looking for it. Or they're looking for people to give it that don't have it themselves. You know what I mean? So I always feel like it's good preparation to have life insurance so that when, because everybody has to go at one point.
yeah.
And so not to have your family left with that burden of trying to bury you, I think it's always important for the family members in the family, whether it's, covering your kids, covering yourself, covering, parents, to have that in place. So when it's time for, us to roll out, the red carpet to have a home going for you, that we have all those necessary things in place. So Miss Jill, you seem to be very knowledgeable about life insurance. So let's get into the questions. So the first question is, what is life insurance?
So life insurance in a whole is basically a contract between an individual and an insurance company. Mm-hmm. And this is saying that we're going to pay out a benefit if this person dies. Now, that's just the scope of it in a ball. But there's so many variables to insurance. I think the pandemic is a perfect example of that.
Yes.
You have people that were able to pay their insurance, pay their mortgage through their insurance, pay their bills through their insurance. So there's so many other factors. Then yes, you can have insurance for death, but you can also have life insurance for life.
That's awesome. So I never knew that.
Something. Exactly. So I think that's something that people don't realize is that, it will pay off if somebody died, but it can still pay off if you're living. So
wow, that's awesome. I never knew that, because every time that I think about life insurance, I think about the death part of it. Yep. And not having to leave family with, trying to clear up stuff once it's done. Okay, that's a good nugget. I like that. Okay, how important is life insurance?
Oh my gosh, life insurance is so important. I think one of the examples that I can give is when AJ Johnson died recently, the actor who played Ezell on Friday.
Yeah.
I was so bothered about the reactions. And no, no one's obligated to help you. And
Right.
that's one of the things that I think became very relevant in that situation, because you had so many people, singing his praises and all, he was an awesome person, this and the other.
Yep.
But on the flip side, his wife was begging for money to
Yeah.
bury him.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the question came up, well, why didn't he have insurance, and why didn't he have this, and why didn't he have that? Well, we don't know why, but now it's here. What are we going to do about it?
Right.
And so I just thought that was such an unfortunate situation and an unnecessary situation, because insurance doesn't cost a lot.
Yes.
And so I think, it's very important, it's very relevant. And one of the things about insurance is you don't know you need it until you need it.
Yep. And you know what? Him being a celebrity, I always thought that if that was something that they cared less about, because they had the money. So if ever, their time was to come, that they just have the money to just pay for the burial services. But you have so many known actors and actresses who have not been in business in so long, you don't know where the money went. Yeah. They could have been, in debt. They could have, owed other people. So it always baffled me that was something that I didn't think that they considered when, making that type of money. That, okay, let me put this aside for me, myself, and my family. So that was something I thought was surprising.
Yeah. And, you don't have to have $20,000-$30,000 to bury somebody. You can simply have $10,000 to have a basic funeral. So it's not necessary to have just a exorbitant amount of money. And I think that's one of the things that people think, and it's not necessary to have, hundreds of thousands of dollars of insurance. Right. Not unless, that's something you want to have, but funerals don't cost that much. But if you don't have $10,000, $15,000 laying to the side, then, you want to have insurance.
Right. That's important. Okay, so here's my next question. Speaking of that, what or who qualifies you for life insurance? And how are the life insurance policies issued?
So when you apply for insurance, it goes through a process of underwriting.
Okay.
And so once it goes through underwriting, they basically go through your history, your health, financials, and they will determine if you qualify for the amount that you're asking for. So say if you ask for $10,000 of life insurance, they'll go through, well, what do your medical history look like? And maybe that's not necessarily a best example, because $10,000 really isn't a lot for insurance. Let's say 10 million.
Okay.
Like that. So
that's a lot.
Somebody, because people do apply for, their insurance. So say you go for that. Well, if you only make $5,000 a year, why are we going to give you $10,000? I mean, $10 million policy. Exactly. You don't need that.
Yes.
Your house is only so much.
Right.
You only make so much a year, so you don't need $10 million for a policy. So those are the type of things they look at and they consider. Also, your health. What is your health like? And that's one of the things that you have to also consider when it comes to insurance. Not so much if you have a health issue, because if you have a health issue, then it's really important to get it.
Right.
But if you have a health issue, what is a health issue? And then how much should you be applying for as far as your life insurance? In that, because if you pass and you have medical bills, that policy can cover that.
That's awesome. So does it determine what type of illness you have that qualifies you to have so much of a life insurance?
Really, what would go into that is your financials.
Okay.
So how much are you making? What do you do as a career? That will determine how much insurance, how much of a policy you will have.
Okay.
Also, what assets do you have?
Gotcha.
So if you don't own a home, you don't have any assets, you don't have any 401ks, anything like that, then you wouldn't need a large policy. As to somebody who has a lot of assets, who has a business, things like that, then, they will consider giving you more.
A bigger policy. Gotcha. Okay. So my next question, excuse me if I'm not looking at the camera. I got the questions in my phone because it was just too many to write. So I said, listen, we're gonna do the phone today. Okay, so you kind of explained a little bit how life insurance works. So say for instance, if a family member or you yourself pass away and the life insurance is left to a particular person, how is that distributed out? Does that go paying off what you owe first, medical bills? Does that go straight to the beneficiary?
So a couple of things play into that. If you have an estate set up,
okay,
for your for you and your assets. Also, the beneficiary, this is another thing why you have to have a beneficiary that's responsible, because when they get the money, they can do whatever they want with it.
Right.
So if they want to go and not pay any of your bills or not do, any of the responsible things, they can very well do that. And nobody can say anything about it because they're the beneficiary. That's their money. So,
right.
So yeah.
Wow. Is it important to have one?
Oh yeah. Well, you have to have somebody for the money to go to. So it's going to either go to an individual or organization.
Gotcha.
Or again, your estate, which a lawyer would be the one that would distribute your money.
Okay, gotcha. So it's always good to have all of that stuff written out, so there's no confusion and nobody is trying to take that it doesn't belong to.
Yeah, I believe it's very important to have a will and an estate, so everything can be clear. No one has to argue. There's no confusion. Right. This is what this person wanted. This is their wishes, and that's that. Is it right?
That's awesome. Now, can you have more than one life insurance policy?
Oh, yeah. So legally, there's nothing saying that you can't have 20 insurance policies, life insurance policies. Yeah. So now what will happen is the insurance companies will look at, how many life insurance policies does this person have? How much are they worth? And then again, that goes back to your finances. Why do you need 10 policies for $100,000? You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. Okay, next question. Can you take a life insurance policy out on a family member without their consent? And the reason why I ask is because I know a lot of people personally who are either divorced or have kids with someone, and they want to make sure that the kids are taken care of, but the person that they're no longer with doesn't either want life insurance or is just like, yeah, we don't need it, it's not important, but they want to have that coverage because they have kids together, or they have, a sister who's incapable or brother who's incapable, or, something like that.
So no, you cannot.
Okay.
The person, if it's an adult, the person has to give consent to the application. So when you fill out the application, there's a there's a few pages that they have to sign saying that I, authorize this policy being taken out on me. Now somebody do something behind the door, to do that. I mean, I don't really see the benefit because it can easily backfire and you not get any money, if that person dies. So no, legally you cannot.
Okay, and the reason why I brought that situation up is because I don't know if you remember or if you heard it in like the media, but the woman that owns Sweetie Pies in St. Louis had a son who took it out on his nephew, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, like you just mentioned, it backfired because he did some backdoor type of stuff and it ended up blowing up in his face. He ended up going to jail. And I think the nephew was killed or something like that, wasn't he?
Yep, the nephew was killed and the insurance agent went to jail too.
See there? See? And it's almost like you risk losing your license if you were licensed on doing something that you had no responsibility doing. But then I also felt like if it's for the protection of the kids, once that parent has gone, why can't you do it? You know what I mean? And I don't know. I always felt like it was kind of selfish of the other parent not to want to make sure the kids are secure or taken care of, or making sure that they are taken care of once they're gone.
Mm-hmm. I think it's one of the mindsets in our community. And this is one of the reasons why this is so much of a passion for me, to help people become aware, to give knowledge, to give the information, because it's a necessary need, regardless of what the relationship is with that person, XYZ. Again, you can have a will, you can have an estate that writes out how you want that money to be distributed. But I think, perfect example with the thing with Sweetie Pies, it's one of the reasons why they require consent, because if the nephew probably knew the uncle was taking those policies out on him, because I believe he took policies out on his mother as well, and it wasn't authorized.
Oh, wow.
So I think, his nephew probably could have been a little more aware that he's having policies taken out on him, and, like, what's going on here. So I think it's important that person knows. And it is unfortunate if you can't get a parent to consent, but, you kind of gotta, look at it like, you don't really want anybody taking a policy out on you.
Yeah, it doesn't really sound right. Without, y'all having that conversation.
Yeah, it's like, what are your motives? So, I think it's best to definitely have that consent. And if the person is not with it, then, you have to think of other ways, especially if you're going to be the one responsible for their burial or bills when they pass.
I definitely agree. I think us, as just the Black community in general, I think we lack a lot of information on what life insurance really entails and the importance of it. And I've never seen so many people taken out by natural causes, by losing their life to gun violence, by, car accidents. Like, no matter what it is, somebody's life has been taken in that situation. And then for the family that's left behind to have to, weigh that burden on how to bury you. And then it's almost like you're in the need of the help, but then you can't require anybody to help, because that is, in all honesty, your responsibility to make sure that, you got all of that in line. So I think it's very important to have life insurance. Like, I can't stress that enough. It's so important to have life insurance. Okay, so speaking of life insurance, how affordable is it? Because some people are deterred away from it because of the amount that they think it costs.
So it depends on what type of insurance you have.
Okay.
So there's whole life and there's term life. And of course, there's subcategories within both of those. But I believe in both of those, depending on the amount of the policy, I've written policies for $100,000 and it's less than $20 a month.
Oh, very affordable.
Yeah.
I spend that on lunch.
Girl, when I tell you, that's why it's so frustrating, because it's so cheap. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is, they're basically like throwing money at you.
Yes.
And so I think that as long as you are mindful of your costs, what you make monthly, and you get with the right producer, they can get you a policy within your means. You don't have to spend hundreds of dollars a month on a policy. Very less than $20. You can very well do that and have a decent policy to bury you and still have money over for your beneficiaries.
That's awesome. I really, really like the fact that, and I don't know, maybe this, and I'm not that old, but maybe this has come with age. My parents have always stressed how, and not stressed as in, oh my God, it's getting on my nerves, but stress the importance of it, of how important, life and credit and insurance, life insurance and that stuff was. And now being an adult and wanting to start my own family, I see the importance of it now. And it really makes me mad how we spend our money on everything else except for the stuff that's so important. It's $20. I literally spend that on lunch. And sometimes twice a day, depending on what my work schedule is like. So for you to spend $120 $140, $220 on some sneakers, but you can invest into what will then be, beneficial for your family, then I just shake my head at it. I don't know what to say.
Yeah. And I've written policies where $120 will cover a whole year of a policy.
See there?
So it's like, it just really, you have to work with what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, you just really have to think, okay, what is it that I need? And then go within that and determine, okay, this is the amount of the policy that I would need. And, or if you just want to bury, a person, okay, let me get a policy for at least $10,000. That's probably $5, if that, what I'm saying? So it's like, just look within your means and figure out what works best for you.
One thing that I've always wanted to do was make sure that my back end stuff was taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't want to be the type of parent or type of wife to leave my husband in debt, to leave my kids in debt, because I didn't feel like that's what the insurance money was for. Although it is, it comes in handy if for whatever reason life happens and I'm not able to, get to the goal of being debt free completely. And there are, some minor things that need to be taken care of, but I never felt like my beneficiary should have to take care of what I left behind. I felt like it was my job to make sure that everything was in the clear, but it was their job as my beneficiary just to make sure that my homegoing was taken care of and to take the rest and do what they please, with it. So is it important to have a plan as far as making sure that all your dotted lines are crossed as far as not leaving any debt, to making sure that, any medical bills that you can, they're paid off, any old bills, they're paid off, so that whatever you spend on your life insurance is strictly for that, for your life?
Yeah, I think that it's very important to have everything written out, especially if you have a spouse, because even if you pass and say you don't have a policy, they're still going to be responsible for that debt.
Oh,
so
wow.
Why leave it to the spouse? If you can, get a policy to take care of it, then, get the policy to take care of it. But to have everything, spelled out on how you want to have it done. Yeah, I think that's very important. That goes back to the will and the estate, having everything, spelled out. Yeah, that's very important.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, so here's my next question. I know you mentioned about being able to withdraw money from your life insurance. Is there a certain cap of how much you can borrow from your life insurance? Like, is it like your 401k? Because I know most people have it where they can like borrow from it and then they repay themselves back as time goes on. Does life insurance work that way, or once you take it out, that's just it?
So it depends on what type of policy you have. You can borrow against your policy, so you would have to pay it back, or you can just take the cash value of the policy, and that you won't have to pay back. So yeah, but if your policy has cash value, yes, you can take money out on it.
Okay. Now, at what age should you purchase life insurance?
That's an interesting question. I feel like any age before you die. So I don't
That's
think
very important.
Yeah. Now, if you can get a policy when you're a baby and that policy matures until you're 50 years old, oh my God, that would be, awesome, especially if it has a cash value.
That's
but
awesome.
Any age, I don't feel like there's a particular age. Yes, it would be best if you're young before any, illnesses kick in or anything like that. Yeah, that would be the ideal age. But however, if you don't do that, any age.
Right.
Up to, 70, 80 years old, any age.
Okay. So there is a such thing as being grandfathered into a policy.
Not so much life. Now that's more of like property, flood insurance, things like that. So basically what that is if you have an old policy and say a law or rules change within insurance, then you won't have to go by those new rules. You'll still be able to go by the old rules or plan that you had before that change. So.
Okay. Awesome. It's so interesting because when I think of grandfather, because I'm grandfathered into some insurance that I've already had previously. And I was like, man, I wish that worked with everything. Like, I wish I didn't have to fall into the category of having to change everything that I've been doing because the company got bought out or because, it ended for whatever reason. So I hate that. Grandfather is always the best word for me.
Yeah.
It really is. Okay, here's my next question. What does your life insurance cover?
So are you speaking as far as when the person dies or?
Yes, when they pass or while they're still living.
So life insurance, say a person passes, whoever is over that estate or beneficiary, they can use it towards whatever. Okay. There's no rule saying you have to use this policy for this. Not unless you have something written out or say you have a policy that's going to a charity or organization, something like that. Then, of course, those are rules. But if not, if you just have it going to an individual, there's nothing saying that it has to be used for that. Now, if you're speaking as far as when a person is alive, as I was speaking earlier, with the pandemic, you have insurance that, will pay your bills if you lose hours in work or you lose your job or a pandemic happens and, you can't work, you get sick. And so you have insurance that's specified and say, okay, we'll pay your mortgage for a year. We'll pay your car insurance for a year. Whatever expense is specified for that insurance will pay that.
That is so awesome to me. And I've had life insurance for a long time, either through my parents or on my own. And I never knew some of the little tools. Like I never knew that life insurance covered so much. I thought it was specifically only for when you die. Like, so I'm baffled.
That's like one of my favorite sayings is that life insurance is for life.
Yes.
You can use it for death, but it's so beneficial for life.
I see that. That's so awesome. Okay, Ms. Jill, this is my last question for you. And it may be a repeat, but we'll just kind of recap.
Okay.
So how long should you keep your insurance policy?
So they have term insurance and they have whole life insurance. And basically what that is that term is for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Okay. And I like to attribute that to thinking about term and whole as renting or buying a home. Okay. So if you have term insurance, that's like renting. So you're going to only be there for a certain amount of time. As to if you have whole insurance, that's for up to 100 years.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. Never knew the difference between the two. What I tried to do was anytime that I enrolled into insurance, whether it be through my job or an independent insurance company, I tried to make sure that I can extend it as long as I can because I want to make sure I get the most benefit out of it. Because I just feel like, I don't feel like it's a waste of money because I feel like putting money into insurance is a really good benefit for you and for family. But I almost felt like if I'm going to invest into it, then I want to invest into it for the long term. For the long haul. I didn't want to shortchange myself or shortchange my family. So I wanted to make sure that if I was going to do it, I was going to do it right.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much how that went.
Yeah. And, I feel like the longer you have it, the more beneficial, especially if you have cash value. There are some term life policies, and a lot of people don't know this, but there are some term life policies that have cash out value as well. So you can also cash out on a term policy as well as whole.
Oh, wow. So Ms. Jill, is there anything else that we need to know about insurance that we have not covered? We covered the amount, we covered who can be beneficiaries, we covered what goes into it as far as how much you make, what your assets are, your monthly income and things like that. So is there anything else that we need to know?
I think one of the most important things when it comes to insurance, because you're not only dealing with, a death benefit, but this person is handling your financials. I think one of the most important things is finding a good producer. And this person can go over your existing policies. This person can go over your financials and also help you understand, okay, this is how much you need. you don't need this, you may need this. So they can help you have a better view of what type of policy will work best for you, and not just giving you any policy. So I feel like that's one of the most important things, is finding a good producer that actually cares, understanding, and considerate and mindful of all of that, because you don't want to get too much, you don't want to get too less. You want to get, exactly what you and your family would need in the time of you passing and or living.
Okay. Now, when meeting with the producer, is there anything that you need to take with you?
You will need your ID. Really, depending on the type of policy that you get, you may have to have a physical.
Okay.
But not all of them. Some of them you don't have to have a physical.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, Miss Jill, that was all I had as far as life insurance. I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak with me on the importance of life insurance. I hope that whoever listens to this podcast will definitely get the tools that they need to get started with it if they don't have it, to relook at the insurance that they already have, to even come holler at you if they want to get started with life insurance. So before we close out the video, please let everybody know where they can reach you at.
So you can either contact me by phone, 816-665-5139. Also email, which is Johnville Life, and that is JONVILLELIFE@gmail.com. Either one of those ways, you'll be able to get in contact with me. I do write for Kansas or Missouri, and I'm sure I can get you any type of policy you're looking for. I can work with you. I work with multiple companies because I am an independent producer. I'm not just with one company. So if I can't find you a policy in one company, I have multiple other ones I can go through, and we'll find out something that'll work for you.
Awesome. That sounds like a plan. Well, Miss Jill, thank you so much. This will not be the last time you will be hearing from me. I'm going to get with my husband. We're going to have a conversation. We'll be reaching out so that we can get some additional coverage for the both of us and also for our kids. Thank you so much. It was so good to see you. And thank you for tuning in to the Queen's Lounge podcast. If you are not, you need to be following us on Facebook.com. You can also find us on Instagram. You can also find us wherever you listen to your podcast. We're on Spotify, we're on Castbox, we're on Pandora, we're on all that. So wherever you are listening to your podcast, you are there to listen to the Queen's Lounge. Thank you again, Ms. Jill, for taking time out of your day to come and spend with us, to talk to us about life insurance. And if you are looking for someone to do life insurance with, or you're looking for an insurance policy or someone to go over it, reach out to Ms. Jill. She left her information for you. Ms. Jill, I'm going to reach out to you separately so that additional to the podcast, I can put that information on the video. So if they need to, they can reach out to you and get what they need.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you soon.
Bye.
All righty. Bye-bye.